Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about Rudy Giuliani's filing for bankruptcy. Not a big surprise. It's precipitated, obviously, by the successful motion by Shaye and Ruby Freeman, the plaintiffs in the defamation case, with the $148 million verdict. Typically, after such a verdict, there's a 30-day automatic stay until the judgment is entered, and Shaye and Freeman move Beryl Howe, the judge, to say, accelerate that, please. Give us our judgment now so we can go around to the country and try to attach his assets. You get this piece of paper, you go around to New York, where he owns that apartment, and said, I've got this judgment. You have to give it full faith and credit, as the Constitution says, and I should get money. So the reason that the judge said she granted it was, one, he has been unbelievably squirrely. Squirrely isn't even the right word. Squirrely implies he's been sort of evasive. He's just been completely recalcitrant, just stonewalling the court, which again and again ordered him to disclose his assets in the discovery leading up to the defamation trial. He just refused, and he, just thumbed his nose at the court, and that was the reason why the court held that there's liability for defamation and was only about damages. Okay, so now in addition, after the plaintiffs moved to accelerate this 30-day period, the judge granted it in a pretty blistering opinion where she, among other things, cites Giuliani's re-defaming Moss and Freeman on the courthouse steps during the very trial, when his counsel was in there telling the jury what poor folks they were and they've suffered enough, etc. So the judge, pretty irate, said, A, you can't trust him at all, and B, he's got other debts, so for that reason, go for it. Here's your judgment, and go around the country, try to get his assets. Because, you might think you win the trial. Oh, good. And now he signs a check for $148 million. It doesn't work that way, right? You have to collect it. So no real surprise, but real consequences for Giuliani the next day. And finally, he declares for bankruptcy protection. And we finally do learn something about his finances, and we will learn a fair bit more in the course of the proceedings. But basically, he claims assets of between $1 and $10 million and liabilities of $153 million, almost all, in other words, consisting of the verdict against him for $148 million in the defamation case. In addition, he lists unpaid bills to his lawyers. We know he's actually been sued for stiffing his lawyers, including folks he's known for a long time, which seemed to be a very strong indication that he was in financial extremis. And other lawsuits. Hunter Biden has sued him and others. So that's basically where the extra $5 million come in. So he sought bankruptcy protection. Now, on the one hand, Giuliani is going to have to give up item by item all his assets, and that quest will finally be realized after he, as I say, stiffed the court again and again. That's the good news for Shaye and Ruby Freeman. The bad news is, one other piece of good news is, in general, it looks to be the case that an intentional tort, which is what a defamation is, isn't discharged in bankruptcy. You still technically owe that money. And it also is the case that he could appeal the judgment now, could Giuliani, but he'd have to post a bond probably equal to the amount of the judgment. No way he can ever do that. So, he's at the end of the road. The bad news is, when the bankruptcy court gets jurisdiction over his assets, they say, stop the music. We're going to figure out how to distribute things among the different people that this guy owes money to. And we're going to leave him with a little bit at the end of the day to, his own house and car, that sort of thing. And so that arrests the efforts of Moss and Freeman to immediately, now they go to New York and here's our piece of paper, thank you very much. But now there's a bankruptcy court that has said, stop the music, we're going to figure this out methodically, etc. You can see why it generally makes sense. Here it permits Giuliani to frustrate the plaintiffs even longer, and at the end of the day, they'll be lucky to get a small fraction of the liability judgment against him. Nevertheless, it's a really one step further, like comeuppance for the former America's mayor, who now has lost this verdict and didn't testify, though he promised he would, and now is going to have to be a bankrupt suitor to the court under Rule 11, show his largely empty pockets, and the judge will have a methodical process by which at least some piece of the carcass, as it were, will go to and the largest one will go to the two Georgia plaintiffs. So that's the process that starts now, and it does put a halt to the immediate getting of assets from Giuliani, but it will go forward, including, if necessary, selling his apartment and liquidating his other assets, and at the end of the day being left with, basically a modest home or things to just live on. But otherwise it goes to his creditors, of whom the plaintiffs are by far the principal. So we'll follow that process, but it won't necessarily be quick. It will be methodical, and Moss and Freeman will be in line, even if they're sort of first in line. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.